I know what you were thinking when you turned the song. You were thinking, you better not be doing what I think you're doing. Let's just say I'm doing what anyone who knows me would expect. I'm making it simple and clear why I think COVID was a deliberate attack. Now, my primary audience are my friends, but I also have in mind Greta Thunberg, or at least those loyal to her movement, because I don't want anyone to think that I necessarily blame them. I've been in their camp for a long time. I just don't want them to promote the idea that this was a good call on the part of the Axis science establishment, which is what I'm going to cover. You see, the reason I know about what's going on is because a girl named Rosa, working with friends of Donald Trump like Peter Guybrush, used the neuroplasm that was impacted in my brain that I didn't know was there in a cover operation for the AIDS attack, to cover for museum thefts like John Schulman and other people in the Pitt establishment in Pittsburgh, who put on what they claimed was a theater operation on Mount Desert Island with the help of WQED. Well, it turns out that there was a neuroplasm. Get it? And they were using it to cover for the AIDS attack, and they were saying that they didn't know it was there. They put it there. They knew it was there. They knew I didn't know it was there. Now, I mistakenly trusted Rose and Pete Gabriel and took them for the good guys. What a mistake. And you know people who you trust, and you're making a similar mistake. My first thought when I heard about COVID and saw the dead piling up in Italy was that girl Rosa was from Milan, and she was so romantic about the Italians. How does this make her feel that she covered for the people who did this? Well, some people obviously think it was a good idea. I caution you to remember I grew up in a Jewish Holocaust survivor community. A Mr. Brecker was one of the people hiring for his own little private gas chamber in East Liberty. And he, back in the early 70s, was always saying, leave it to the scientists. So, I know from World War II that many innocent people were done in before resistance started. It wasn't just the cavalry came riding in. There was a lot of resistance to defending the innocent. They've done this once to people they said were immoral. And now they've done it a second time to people they say are liberal and weak. When's the third time coming? Are you ever going to get off your butts and help me try to put a stop to it by circulating a tape like this? Because I was telling each and every one of you that I witnessed that AIDS was part of the machine. Now a lot of, burning rubber smells went around because there were Jewish people in this encampment. Pittsburgh finally recognized that Schulman was too much. But what I want you to understand is that I've read the testimony from Nuremberg. I know that the character of the Jewish people at one time was very empathetic. A man gave his loins in an experiment to save a younger man who was tagged for the experiment by the Gestapo, and it came out and the younger man wept at what the older man had lost and sacrificed. Character in that community has changed. People laughed when I was chemically castrated. Now the reason I bring that up, Viagra works. I've had nothing but lucky and good experiences with women for the most part. But the reason I bring it up was because of the metaphor that it operates under. Science came in and put a stop to breeding of the liberal. That was the metaphor that's there. That's in place before they launched the COVID bomb. Before they launched the COVID bomb, they also poisoned me in the mouth. Where was Buttigieg? He was up being deferential to these people who were behind the AIDS attack. All of you are being deferential to these scientists who think this was all good and groovy and explicable in theater. Are they going to do it again? Now, if you go back in time to the way that they sold this, the way that they used the neuroplasm to cover for their horrible crime, you see that they organized the allegiance of the other people being victimized. And a scapegoat holding the bag routine about freak, freak, your hero has been shot, was what they said to me at Temple University on December 8, 1980, when I got the call from mysterious Daya from Damon's circle. Freak, freak, your hero has been shot. This creates a diglossia, because then the same people who were laughing about Freak's hero being shot come in and say, you could have saved him, you could have saved him. Now, Rosa could have helped me stop COVID if she would have simply been honest about what had been done to me. They knew there was a neuropsychiatric element, but instead of advising me to see a neuropsychiatrist, because even Rosa knew I didn't want to be jealous of her, I loved her. It was a personality change chemical that was suffocating me. They knew that. They were laughing about it. Jill Kaplan couldn't wait to see the tea kettle go up. The trolls online were carrying on about it. They were on and on. Freak, you coulda, you coulda. And this creates a diglossia, you see. They're letting science solve the problem. Did science have anything to do with the Houdini mission that John Lennon appears to have really been on? We let these people, we talk about the Kennedy curse, which is when this began. Oh, there's no such thing as Kennedy curse. What Kennedy curse? And then they do seriously. What Kennedy curse? And then they do two more. They take a couple souvenirs, right? And it's all clocked to my writing to the Kennedys. My letter in response to Courtney was delivered with the disappearance of two Kennedys. What Kennedy curse? You know, what AIDS riddle? What COVID bomb? What poison in the mouth? You know, the substructure, they send in the musicians who were responsible for the whole thing. Dylan and Yoko Ono go in and play a song about Kennedy must pay, and they get New York to applaud and cheer them. While hospital bed after hospital bed goes from ventilator shop to the refrigerator of death. Sten is the name on these letters. So let science do it. Now, how did this personality change come about? That the people who were once empathetic about the sacrifice and loss of their peers are now laughing at innocent people being killed. And what I present to you is that how we got to the point where the whole point is to do innocent people. Like you and I think, oh, well, when a child, I talked to a sergeant in the police, when a child was injured, she would lose it. She was a strong woman, but not when it came to children. So you think innocence is gold, you know, innocence is what's important, protect it, right? They see it differently. They see life as rough, right? And targeting innocence is the most gratifying thing in the world. You think they don't think that way, but they do. What made them hate Jimmy Creary was because he was so innocent. Ooh, I can't wait to hit it. Was the way that Pittsburgh thinks. So, you know, the change of character comes about because when you go from, it's intonated in the name Carrie Gister, which is like Kister and Gaster. It's Sturgis and Starkey made into Geestar. You know, it's switched the syllables. Keystar. gassed her and kissed her and gassed her. That's sense, and what's he gonna do? I mean, you gotta do, Hitler's gonna get him if he doesn't, When you get to the point where you start seeing things that way, you lose it, right? We needed to be more careful of them. The whole point is to target. When I sent the picture of Circe Kennedy to 1717, which is an encryption for the Two Virgins Pussy Ball, but it's the federal building here in Tacoma. I imagine they're probably using it as a dartboard right now because the whole idea was to get the innocent, ha 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 ha. So guess life is rough, Nothing is better. Like than to kill a Gandhi. Oh, you know, and this is the way they think, and they've been trained and conditioned to think. And they have a lot of support from the gay community in Seattle because of the Diglossia that got put in place with the idea that the Beatles were somehow anti-fascist. The Beatles aren't anti-fascist. If McCartney had done what he did to me to Picasso, there probably would have been an outcry. But he did it to somebody who was weak and innocent and invisible, kept invisible. So people said, too bad. When they found the script, they pointed out that the neuroplasm was working. Science knew what it was doing, right? Wattenmaker, Attenborough knew what they were doing. So you had this situation where the weak was freaking out from some mysterious suffocation in the psyche. You have this situation where somebody tortured him and got away with it. The NAACP recognized this as a black man and we're saying, gimme 5. You got the liberal. He thought he was so big. And that's the way Pittsburgh thinks. So you have this situation in place and they come along with Midori Goto. And the script says, I introduced this guy I liked to my best friend, and now they're going out. Guess life is rough. And Midori was going, goody. I get to go out with the Klansman who really fucked him up. And Peter Gabriel came in with Sinead O'Connor and Munyan Zappa, and they were saying, goody, goody, we're going to use the neuroplasm to help the people who started AIDS get away. And we're going to have New York cheering us. Neat. That's what they did. So you have a situation, the FBI come in with peep. The FBI are going to peep. We will peep at you. Woo, woo. What is the queerbait doing in the confines of his lockdown? Woo, woo. He's looking at pretty girls. Oh my goodness. So this is what they do. Well, Buttigieg is helping them poison the death suck in the mouth so that Greta can come on and say, well, the world has to be safe now. So part of the theater was they had someone, Catholic worker in Milwaukee named Dawn Timmerman. Don't, I'm her man. Get it? Dawn Timmerman. Don't, I'm her man. And they had somebody at the Artec Salk Labor Labs in Pittsburgh with Jonas Salk and Louis Kahn out by Leslie Park. Dawn Collar, don't call her. Dawn Collar, Dawn's Collar. Oh, don't call her queerbait. So this is their idea of theater. And we are all supposed to show deference. The mayor of Tacoma will show deference to Jay Inslee and so forth. So all of this, deference going on while many innocent people were being done in. And when told to protest, they run into the streets for Obama and Black Lives Matter. What's going on there? Well, they pulled the same thing with AIDS. They got apartheid to break down, right? So they drowned out the AIDS issue in the South African Secret Service, tapes being made by WQED, swastikas being promoted as a sacred African symbol, pussy ball victory in the whorehouse sit-in, the AIDS victims needing to poison a white in the mouth and stuff like that. And, oh, but she was Jewish, we can understand. I'm from Goshen. I have such sensitivity to the Jewish cause, and it's just another innocent they're going to target, the way they targeted Circe. You know, but people put themselves on by thinking I'm sensitive to the Jewish issue. Well, John Schulman was perfectly good at making a smokescreen of the sensitive Jewish issue while he was pilfering books from the museum and so forth. I mean, it's common knowledge in Pittsburgh that the whole thing was an organized corruption and outrage, and that they were picking on Jimmy Carrey. Ask any fool, you know. So you have the situation of diglossia in the matter because people are speaking in two tongues because they think the Beatles are good. Yet the Beatles are helping the people behind it. The Beatles are the good guys, and yet the people. So the two tongues men from Britain come in, and of course they have theories about. I mean, I've had to deal with Brian Eno, and David X has this idea that the brain waves are going to be put into internet so that if you think wrong, it'll be detected. Right? I mean, they're capable of it. So you have this situation of diglossia with regard to the claim that the Beatles are anti-fascist. You've got to be kidding me. The Beatles have had their hand in the pocket of every fascist who has walked on America since the murder of the Kennedys, and they just rub it in. It's what the business with Cersei was. And many of us believe that the answer to things like the prison situation and poverty and so forth is the educational system dealing with change to deal with the begin carbon removal from the atmosphere and teaching botany and so forth is part of the educational establishment's mission. But in Pittsburgh, the people who don't think so loudest are the educational establishment. And what they do think, though, is that you should run into the streets during a pandemic that's going to threaten old people to protest for Black Lives Matter, because it's not like they were running into the street in fury that the people who started AIDS had released COVID. That's not what it was about. And why behind all this do I say this is being advertised? I mean, you have people like Ash Green at Tacoma Honors Department, that's a signifying name, and Pompey, the big, oozing with treachery horror, who's spokesman for Trump's second term of office. He has the keys to Vesuvius, queerbait. Penis Pompey can Pompey the world, right? He stole the keys to Vesuvius. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Ash Green doesn't mean a thing. So you have this situation with, UW dialectical. That does not compute. That does not compute. Bobby Yindle comes from David Duke country. Northwest Asian Weekly sang his praises as an Asian man who has made good, right? Just like Alpin is the victim from Lee Goodkind's office. She was the good kind who set up the sting on Goody Maduri for the black man in the True Virgin's Pussy Ball campaign that was clocked to the AIDS attack. You better not be doing what I think you're doing, Pussy Ball. Don't you go telling on us. You know what I'm saying. So you have this situation all set up. And Bobby Indo is the saint who comes in, no, we're not going to allow them to tear down the Confederate statues. Literally, right? The Asian saint, the black man, the honorary the black man, isn't going to allow them to tear down Confederate statues. That does not compute. That does not compute. Why? Because of this whole hookahgram that they've put together from long ago at UW Dialectical and gotten people to run into the streets to spread the COVID to the old folks and get them killed in the name of the honorary the black man. So, I mean, it's all a bunch of pre-planned manipulation from groups like Alternative Conflict Resolution, who pilfered the papers that they themselves wrote and said, aha. You get the diglossia. Lenin's dead, therefore long live the people who killed Lenin. Ha 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 ha. That's the way it operates. That's what they're doing. So, I suggest you get together to see that the food fight that they prayed about when Pittsburgh Post-Gazette published Kasparowski was under the headline Food Fight. It's probably what's coming with Mark III poison crime. AIDS, COVID, what's next? We were able to find necessary workers for the COVID bomb. Are they going to do this again? Are we going to be fighting for scraps of food in the street as part of Trump theater? Stay tuned, my buggy.